Hey everybody, it's your buddy Beard Grizzly. Keeping with the theme of Hive-related videos recently, and on the very prominent recommendation of Bolt's Gaming and stuff, I figured we'd take a look into the King's Fall raid weapons, especially now that we have so many new flavor texts thanks to the exotic versions of the primaries. We'll be covering every weapon just for a complete record, so sit back and relax while we look these over. As an added little plug, Bolt's is starting up his own channel with some gameplay on weapons he enjoys. Give him a little love if you'd be so kind, and offer some praise and criticism to help him grow. He's been around since the foundation of the channel, and I owe him a lot for his support. I've always been interested in the King's Fall weapons, mainly because they outline the races or important figures that Oryx had a hand in conquering. We sadly can't look into the world's grave, the Hive database that marks and records all of these worlds and races the Hive have conquered, but we can at least get a glimpse through these weapons. Anyway, enough of my rambling, let's get into the weapons. First up, the Anguish of Dresden. Of course we picked the doozy first. Hard to starboard, standby weapons, helm, get us out of here, and the exotic version. Engine's dead. Do we still have Earth signal? Tell them we were wrong. Captain Dresden Corps, First Fleet. There's a couple theories I've been able to find around the community when talking about Dresden Corps. One feels that they were a Reef Fleet leader, but this can't be right. The last name of Corps certainly makes you think of Corsair, but a Titan mark by the name of Spirit of Saturn contradicts this idea. A ceremonial badge worn by Titans in memory of the lost First Fleet. This mark has been around since Year 1, which sends up a red flag. The First Fleet of the Awoken had not encountered Oryx at this time. It also makes mention of this badge being ceremonial, which generally indicates something founded in tradition or something ancient. More than likely, this is a fleet from the Golden Age. This seems like a rather large contradiction to current known lore, summed up as, if Oryx were in the solar system with the Traveler at the time of the collapse, he would have ripped the thing into small bits and left us with nothing. But, you ready for this crazy idea? I sure hope you are, because this one's harebrained as all get out. Back in 2004, the Cassini-Huygens probe arrived within the orbit of Saturn. This started to supply us with a ton of information on the planet and its surroundings. There was one major thing that made NASA scientists really curious, being a storm system that would pop up every 30 to 40 years around the atmosphere of the planet. This is identified as a large white cloud that would move along different latitudinal lines. They've since settled on a hypothesis that may be causing these storms for now, but one possibility that was brought up suggested Saturn may pass by a black hole every so often in its orbits of Sol. Astronomers have been quick to jump on the black hole bandwagon before, since they generally screw up a lot of space-time observations, but let's roll with the theory. In the card, the Gift Mast, marked number 46, we see an interesting idea with black holes in the Destiny universe. Then saith Savathun, siblings, listen, we must part ways a while so that we may grow different. She flies her war moons into the black hole, her throne becomes distant. This indicates that Savathun was successful in using the black hole as a form of space travel, going to another part of the galaxy, the universe. Anyone's best guess on that one. My theory. Bungie ran with the idea of the black hole around Saturn, the First Fleet found it, they bumped into Oryx after going through it, and that's how the members were converted down into chitin, and their memories strapped to a weapon. After all, the Spirit of Saturn talks about the lost First Fleet, and there seemed to be no mention of remains in the Saturnian system, nor any other ideas of what may have happened to them, suggesting their signals fell on deaf ears. But hey, that's just a theory! And I'm not finishing that phrase. Next up, Smite of Moraine. No tomb but the battlefield, no legacy but the scars we etch upon our foes. And the exotic, barrel etching. He parted them like a sea which closed upon him again. Talk about a gun that has, nothing at all. At least, not that I'm able to put two and two together on. I'm wondering if Moraine wasn't a hive of sort that just fell out of line, similar to something akin to Alakul. Toland brings this up in the Urzak the Hated card, saying, by pleasing their gods, the hive carves scars on the fabric of our realm. Another theory, though completely boneheaded, Moraine may have been a high-ranking soldier in the House of Scars, and the phrase left here no tomb but the battlefield, no legacy but the scars we etch upon our foes, could be their war cry. Again, entirely out there with no backing whatsoever. I wouldn't call him a Kell, however, thanks to the next weapon, Doom of Celsius. Where is the great machine? Where is the great machine? And the exotic. All is silent. Nothing answers me. The hunger comes. By reference of the Broken Crown, Eliksni songs tell of Celsius, Kell of Stone, who stood before the Maw. Celsius seemed to be a Kell closest to what we might consider a king of the fallen, or known before as the Eliksni. It's felt by several people in the community that Oryx was to blame for the traveler leaving the Eliksni in their time of need, which is noted by the first quote from the standard scout rifle. It is also felt, again by the Crown, that the Kell met his end at the hands of the Taken King. Thanks to the new text and the exotic version of the weapon, I doubt it was immediate, and the Eliksni put up a decent fight against the Hive. I say this solely on the final portion of the phrase, the hunger comes. The Fallen requires something called ether in order to survive. When you pop one in the head, that's the white mist that spews out of their face. Their home world seemed to be full of the stuff, so it was easy for them to not have to hunt for it, like they do now. Servitors, for instance, make the stuff. My idea is this. The Eliksni carried on combat long enough to start to run. The Kell of Stone met his end in space, being so far from their homeworld and cut off from their supply of ether, making a last stand in the best way he could against the Dreadnought. All is silent. Nothing answers me. All alone in the vastness of space, he was cut down and formed into this weapon. Next up, Xiaoli's Bane. Go, child. Run. Don't look back. Don't. And the exotic. As the teeth rend and tear, my consolation is that the child lives. Teeth are oftentimes referred to when talking about the Ahamkara, for instance, Voidfang vestments. You will dream of teeth and nothing else, scratched behind a buckle. And young Ahamkara's spine. Give me your arm, O bear of mine. Let me help you fill the world with teeth. As much as it might be a further connection to the worm gods or some kind of smaller worm that could be used by the Hive for battle, I think it more possible that a group of thrall assaulted Xiaoli, where Xiaoli's downfall in crime was only on their want to save a child. If I had to speculate on what race Xiaoli may be, I have a feeling they were a Taishabethi Raven person, as is depicted in a golden amputation, marked number 30 in the Books of Sorrow. On the 7th pace, the perfect raven comes out of Oryx's wound, and she spreads her wings across Taishabeth. Never again is a Taishabethi child born. She is perfect. She enacts the will of Oryx. This seems to indicate that all the children left on the planet would be that important to the rest of the race, as the end of their species was near ensured with the taking of their empress. I can't find any real-life backings to the name to find any tie-in inspiration at all, minus a mask that is used by a tribe in Western Africa called the Gauro. They use a mask in a dance which they call the Xiaoli. Again, no tie-in, just filling your head with silly info. This ends all of the new weapons, so we'll be going into gear that's been around since last year. But I do have some different theories on a few of them, just letting you know in case that's all you came for. Next, Defiance of Yasmin. Shields up! Protect the Queen! Brace for impact! Save the Queen! Paladin Yasmin Eld. A paladin is one of the main leaders within the Awoken fleet. Think of it as an admiral, almost. Yasmin is of particular interest, being that she seems to be a rather newly appointed member of the Queensguard Paladin group. She seems to not take any part in the Reef Wars, but does have a conversation on the Reef with Uldren, Petra, and several others, discussing the House of Kings' possible interest in joining with Skolas during the events of House of Wolves. The Queensguard card speaks on 6 paladins that have positions in current-day Reef affairs: Abrazire, Kamala Rior, Hallam Fen, Leona Bryle, Pavel Nolg, and Devi Castle. It could be Yasmin is the 7th that is not named here, in charge of the Queensguard as a whole. In either case, her last order is to put shields up before her demise to the Dreadnought, in an attempt to save the Queen of Saturn, along with several other of her paladin brethren. Next up, Silence of Aarn. Without victory, we cannot go home. Primus Aarn. Cade says a few things of interest in the Shield Brothers' strike.
Those Cabal soldiers have no fear. You know, when they go to war, they're kicked out of the Empire. Yeah, victory is the only way they get to go home. Not a lot of people know that. So, the Bond brothers may not even know the Primus was taken. This whole thing could be a power play to get their dead commander back. That's the hold the Empire gets on these soldiers, Guardian. Loyalty beyond death.
Basically, this speaks to the nature of the Cabal. Victory or death. This weapon has brought up a few theories around the block, making us think the Cabal that we fight around Mars and elsewhere have been running from Oryx this whole time. Primus Aarn could be one of Oryx's key victories over the Cabal, which broke them. Since we also are unsure of the status of the Cabal homeworld, it's unknown if Oryx has ever visited there. Being that the Cabal are very Spartan in their ideas, I have a feeling the Emperor would rather die fighting to Oryx than run away. Then again, I guess that brings up the question if Gary is the same Emperor that's been in charge this whole time. Theories. Next up, Midha's Reckoning. I see now that everything dies. Even memory. Midha, Consort of Stars. Well, if I'm wrong on my theory about Jelly, I think I'm right about it with this one. Most of my thoughts and ideas come from the Hunter artifact, Jasper Kakarnat. I was Midha, Consort of Stars. I will not be forgotten. Really, it's not what's said so much as it is the art of the artifact. When I hear a raven, I typically think of a claw or beak. I don't think that's too outlandish. Looking at the main fitting of the Jasper Carcanet, or I suppose what's around it, the tips look like claws, either covered in dry blood or dirt, fossilized over time. Further, the backs of these outer fittings look like wings, and the chain itself is gold, which passes back to a portion of the golden amputation card, again marked 30 in the Books of Sorrow. On the 8th pace, the Tai say, "Listen, you are spoilers, you are sphincters and excretia, you rot, why do you kill? We made silver orbitals and golden star webs, we hatched eggs, we had a good thing. Our clothes were nice, our food was famous, with one of her feathers, our emperor could have tickled the gods." Gold isn't an uncommon color or material to see in the game, but it's at least of special note that these items seem to mix with the race Oryx has conquered. Next up, Ilulim's Frenzy. Hungry. So hungry. Ilulim of the Eimin-tin. There is an artifact related to Eimin-tin, and this is the only other thing we have to go by. You hold in your hands the last record of a long-dead civilization. Not much else, really. The origins of the Eimin may simply come from Marvel's Eimin Worthington. I'm ripping this from the wiki, since this is a character in history I'm not very familiar with. Eimin and Uriel were born from the union of the final horseman, Ichizumi, and Archangel. The twins were conceived after Archangel's ascension to become the new Apocalypse and the leader of the clan Akaba. Translation? I have no freaking clue. It's about all I could come up with. I don't believe we meet any species in the Books of Sorrow that write down their thoughts and ideas on scrolls, but it should be mentioned that this single scroll is it. Their last record. Last one. Quillam's Terminus. If only we had heeded the Queen. This isn't talking about Mara Sov, at least I'm 99% sure. Mara did decide on doing battle with Oryx, so unless there was some command she had given to a certain faction of her people to stay out of the battle against Oryx, then I doubt Quillam is referring to her. To those unfamiliar, a terminus means a final point in space or time, an end or extremity. This roughly means Quillam's end, and Quillam's thoughts were on their queen, either of Marasov or someone else. Sadly, not much else to go by here. That about wraps it up for my thoughts and ideas on the flavor text of the weapons in King's Fall. I don't know if I'll do any of the other raids, simply because the ones here really interested me, especially with my fascination with the Books of Sorrow. In either case, gang, if you like my ideas and theories, hit the sub button. Don't forget to like or dislike, and leave a comment below. If you'd like to leave a note but aren't sure what to say, leave the phrase, "The King has fallen," in a comment below. I've been Beard Grizzly, and I'll see you next Spacetime Guardians. Take care.